election board. Of course, in 2014, then he wasn't the president. He lamented the fact that it was exorbitant, 27.5 million naira, the expression of interest and nomination form. That time he talked about it, the fact that he had to acquire it with bank loans. Now, just recently, the president also talked about the process that brought him was a fair and credible system. And so he's going to ensure that that happens in 2023. So Nigeria should be rest assured. But at the party level, which is very fundamental to the democratic process, what is going on? So you have the forms put at this price, 100 million naira. That's a lot.
That's
or
a whole
if
lot.
I really don't understand what happened. So way back in 2014, 27.5 million was so much money, and the president lamented that he had to, take bank loans. And now it's not very exorbitant. But it just brings us back to the argument that's been going on in the space. It's no longer history. That this has become very fundamental. The money politics or the money back politics that we practice, it is very critical to the electoral process, and it constantly frustrates and flaws the entire democratic process, because this is where it starts from. Imagine you having to take a loan of 100 million naira.
You want to get your return.
So it has now become business. Elections have now become business and investment, and so mostly you would be very pained.
You must get returns somehow.
Your focus would be how to take back all of this monies that you have invested. But this should not be the case. A lot of people, as much as the argument has been put out and saying, oh, there's been some discount that's been given to those between the ages of about 25 to 40, young people, and then women, those with disabilities, all of those consideration. But you look at this, at this time, considering the economic situation that the country is faced with, it is really, really very interesting to know that the APC, and including the PD, they're not left out. So you still talk about 40 million. We constantly make this. And so is this pattern supposed to discourage persons from contesting? Or are these political parties now meant for the rich? What is going on? What sort of principle? How did we even get to this point? What is the rationale behind, putting these forms, such a price tag? And so who can afford? What exactly is going on? We cannot say we want to strengthen our democratic process without paying attention, to the activities or to the parties, political parties, which I would always say is a vehicle to the entire process. So if we're not getting it right at that level, at political party level, how do we now get it right at the bigger level? Because that's what will happen. Yes, it's going to be a trickle-down effect.
If it's placed so highly, those who have genuine interest, the young people who may have one or two things to contribute to the nation's polity, they'll see that as a drawback, because even if they want to contest for governorship, which was pegged at 50 million, they would start thinking of how to get about 50 million naira, and somehow it will be a discouragement. It will even disenfranchise them, because they cannot really get on the race because of just money. And I don't think that's actually a good thing that we are doing in deepening democracy in Nigeria. But we'll not stay much on that. We'll take a quick break now, and when we come back very quickly, we'll go straight to Off the Press in a moment. To join us again.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamode Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
It's the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. As always, we take you through the pages of the national dailies. We have Ezekiel Nyaito who joins the conversation. Ezekiel, it's good to have you join us this morning.
My pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
All right, Ezekiel Nyaito is a public affairs analyst and he's a very patriotic citizen of Nigeria. Let's look at the leadership this morning. On the leadership, we take a look at the bold headlines or the banner caption, if you like to put. The bold story here says, 40 days to presidential primary. APC moves to avert clash of interest. Party NEC concedes powers to the National Working Committee. That's boldly written. CSO's kick as APC pegs presidential nomination forms at 100 million naira. Governorship, 50 million. Its party affairs, says INEC. President Muhammadu Buhari wants against imposition of candidate. That would mean that the APC will not be tilting towards, the consensus. Just maybe. Adamu blames governors for crisis in party, urges unity and party interest. These are the riders underneath the bold caption. And you also have another bold header here saying, World Bank asks federal government to reconsider 4 trillion naira fuel subsidy. Interesting. 43,008 Nigerian pilgrims to perform 2022 the Hijjah. That's what you find. Train attack, El-Rufai gives 9 victims' family 18 million naira. And just before we move away from the leadership, you also find troops kill 25 terrorists and rescue 6 captive in Lake Chad. These are the headlines on the leadership newspaper.
We straight now to the Daily Independent newspaper. Now, outrage trails APC 100 million naira, 50 million naira presidential Guber forms. With some riders, their participation in election now business to earn profit, according to lawyers, say political parties have transformed to revenue collectors. Hiriwa condemns APC, urges arrest probe of form buyers. Commercial exercise will dampen hopes of the nation, that is CISLAC. I'll deploy tougher measures in tackling insecurity. That's attributed to the President, Muhammadu Buhari. We are at risk of losing 2023 election, the APC chairman is saying, lament supremacy battle between governors' predecessors. Party adopt indirect primaries, next seats pass to NWC. Just beneath the pictorial there, 2023 presidential election, PDP in dilemma over consensus as 17 jostle for party's ticket. Oni berates Fayemi over salaries of record EXU staff. More stories, COVID-19, Buhari gives minister deadline to submit vaccine production report, and other stories also making headlines on the Daily Independent newspaper.
Away from the Daily Independent, a quick look at the Punch here. Talks about the presidential primary. APC silent on zoning. Nigerians condemn 100 million naira nomination form, even though you have some quarters saying, including the INEC saying it is actually a party concern. Now, underneath says it will encourage corruption. These are what citizens are saying. No, it will deter unserious aspirant. Chieftain of APC is quoted to say, governors remain state leaders. Adamu wants factions. Indirect primaries likable. That's what likely. That's what's been quoted here. Do not repeat PDP's mistake. Buhari is saying to the APC, of course, position on zoning out soon. That's what the spokesman's quoted to say. And away from all of that. But you also know that it is stipulated that, the parties should inform, INEC should understand what mode of, if you're going to have the primary election, they should understand what pattern of voting that you're going to, apply. So I really don't understand, the whole back and forth and the dilly-dallying with the APC now. But also looking at this, you find power tariff shortfall hits 247 billion naira. Governors cleared debts in December. That's what the federal government report is quoted to say. And foreign varsities from 4 trillion naira subsidy budget, as it tells the federal government. Imports and forex restrictions, worsening food inflation in Nigeria. The World Bank is quoted on all of that. And we just take another before we move away. Kaduna crash. Late pilot's family laments. The NAF begins probe of what could have actually caused that crash. And 376 retirees withdraw 32 billion naira quit pension scheme. That's what the PENCOM is quoted to say. Lagos police grill Chrisland and parent over people's sexual acts. Quite interesting. For the want of time, we'll just really leave it at that this morning on The Punch.
Very quickly, the Nation newspaper, the main caption for this morning, the mid headline, that is Buhari cautions APC against imposition of candidate. Most of the papers have that as one of the lead stories. How decision on Darie Nyame was taken by presidency. CJN warns judges against illegal wealth flamboyance. Train attack, Kaduna gives families of dead victims 18 million naira. Gunmen abduct 4 family members in Abuja, and other stories also making headlines on the Nation newspaper this Thursday morning.
Ezekiel Yai, it's good to have you join us once again. We appreciate your time as always.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
I'm ready for you.
So let's get straight to it this morning. Dominating almost all of the pages, it talks about the nomination form of the APC, 100 million naira. That's gotten several Nigerians talking about the fact that this will always and has always aided corruption.
Yeah, what bothers me about some of these things is how you get a blind man to drive a car and you are so shocked, so surprised that the car crashes. I don't understand. APC have told you in every way imaginable that they are a state capture SPV, and when you are there, a good businessman looks at, the market. When the demand is high, the price goes up because he's a businessman. And when the demand is low, the price comes down. Right now, for one reason or the other, people have come to see that, wow, there is so much money to be made in government. They've come to see that if you are in government, your sins can be forgiven. They've come to see all sorts of things and have a certain mindset about government and governance, all thanks to APC. And as a result, every outgoing governor wants to be a president. Every businessman wants to sponsor somebody who will become Mr. President, and they will be able to do their bidding. Nigeria has become commercialized, and as a result, APC, being good business people, see the market ripe for some harvesting. If they can harvest 100 million from 20 people, that is clean, clear 2 billion that goes to the party for administration. And don't think in terms of 36 states having at least, say, 10 governors, and that gives you about 300, and you get 50 million from each. Just do the math and go to the Senate, where you have 109 constituencies times X amount of money times X number of people, and then go to House of Reps, where you have about 360 of them. Don't even think of House of Assembly. These guys are raking in money in the trillions by my simple calculation. Because of that, they are doing what they know best to do. You and them are singing from two different song sheets. You are talking about government and governance. They are thinking of the enterprise and the business called politics. So why are you surprised that a goat is eating yam, or that the monkey is eating the banana? I mean, who is to be blamed at this point in time? That's number one. Number two, I put the blame again, squarely and to a great extent, on the doorsteps of the media. Why do you want us to believe that outside APC, PDP, we don't stand a chance? And I hope that one day I have a chance to let you know the lie that has been. You see, I've been in politics for a long time. I've contested governorship twice. I've been the chairman, Ward and Local Government Congress Committee of the PDP to one of the states, which is one of the highest assignments you can have in party. I've been a national chairman of a party. I understand the mindset of politicians. They give you a narrative that suits them, that distracts you from the facts. And you run with the narrative while they are doing, you know, there's this Yoruba proverb, I'm told, that a man that will not allow you to eat, while you are preparing your food, prepare his own. So that when he is busy eating his own, you are busy eating your own. And this is what the politicians are doing. That's their stock in trade. Instead of, they know that if you go, there is an electoral act that we have not done an analysis, the synthesis of that electoral act, which we need to do to tell people what is going on. So they distract us with all these things, and then we forget. And the time that we would have been using to tell people, you don't have to bother again. The game has changed. People don't know that the game has changed with the new electoral act. So we're running common interest about APC, PDP, APC, PDP, APC, PDP. And one day we are going to wake up, it's election time. And then we start to say, oh, terrible country, terrible leaders. And it just becomes this evil cycle. You know, finally on this note, you know, there's certain things that the Bible says, and you really don't, it doesn't hit you until something comes. I've read on the Bible so many times, the way of the transgressor is hard. The way of the transgressor is hard. I've heard it until last night. I was watching the publicity secretary of APC on one of the channels, and they asked him about the form. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Does this young man or old man have a hard time trying to justify what was absolutely unjustifiable, trying to explain the absolute unexplainable, trying to answer a question that his face and his voice were in two different directions. And I understood what the Bible meant when he said the way of the transgressor is hard. That's my few comments on that matter.
All right, let's look at other stories also making headlines. On the Nation newspaper, the president is cautioning the APC, still talking about the ruling party in Nigeria. Buhari cautions APC against imposition of candidates. So let's get your take concerning that. You just talked about the publicity secretary of the APC. Yesterday, he was fielding questions, from journalists on another station, and he was talking about how they were not decided yet on zoning, on mode of primary. But right now, the president is actually cautioning the party against imposition, which means that there may be some likelihood of the party considering that in the first instance.
I took a decision, and integrity is hard. It's an expensive commodity. I took a decision which I announced publicly, and I want to try as much as possible to stick to that decision. The decision was that because Mr. President has signed the Electoral Act, that I have forgiven not just all his past acts, I've even forgiven him in advance. Anything he will do. So whatever I'm going to say now is going to come with a caveat that I have forgiven in advance because of that Electoral Act. Mr. President is just two-faced, in my opinion. I don't understand him. I don't know if he has a double life. I don't understand. There's something about him I don't understand. You are the one that everybody comes to in the party to take a decision. You are the one that the party waits for at all times, which I think was absolute lack of strategic thinking. Now you are telling us two things. I don't know if you get to that part. The first thing is that it's going to get tough on terrorists and all these insecurities. It's going to get tough. After 70 years and you have less than 1 year or thereabout to go, you are just telling you get tough. I beg, just leave it like that. Let's just believe God and pray and manage, and you leave the state. And secondly, you are saying we don't want imposition. What's the meaning of that? I need to understand what's the meaning of that, because I've sat down and thought about it. What's the meaning of we don't want imposition? Imposition means what? You have said you are going to have indirect primaries. What are you trying to say? And let me even say something which maybe you will come to with time, which is the NEC ceding its powers to the NWC. You see, in Nigeria, there are aspects of the law that the National Assembly can tinker with. But there are certain aspects that must go through the 36, houses of our assembly in all the states and the FCT. The reason is that certain decisions are so fundamental that they must reflect the decision, the mindset, and the opinion of the whole country, because such decisions are policy decisions that bind the country. It's the same thing, like I said before, I've been a national chairman of a party. It's the same thing with the party. They have the NEC, which represents the whole country, and then the NWC, which is representative in a microcosm status. For instance, in the National Assembly, you have everybody from all the states of the Federation. But the Houses of Assembly have a wider consultation reach before coming. That's why you have NEC as different from NWC. That's why NWC handles the day-to-day running of the system, and then the NEC is like the board, is like the bigger policy body, And then you now come and say that the duties of that body should be ceded. It's like saying, State and House of Assembly, don't bother. National Assembly, go ahead and adjust the Constitution because time is short. When the time becomes short, I thought we knew election cycle was going to be 4 years from today. To the best of my knowledge, I've not seen that thing was shortened to a few months. APC knew. That is why they didn't even have a management until some weeks back, after 7 years. And now, because they don't want, to lose out, I don't even know their reason. They are now ceding the power of NEC to NWC to take decisions on the presidential or that should be taken at a much larger level. They say because to bring the people back to take such a decision within short times might be difficult. Did we just shift elections from 4 years to 4 months? I think that this thing that APC, and they really want to come back to power. And they actually believe that Nigerians are waiting for them to come back. They really don't think that we can think. But I want to tell you that there are 1, 2, 3 provisions in the Electoral Act that we need to highlight. In the past, I just bring out one, just one. In the past, we used to have this situation where, elections, primaries drag to September, October, November, and before you can say, Jack, it's Christmas, and by the time you come from Christmas, it's January, election comes, nobody is able to talk to you. As a result, you just, boom, come on the ballot, and you just go and start voting for people you don't even know anything about. I want to say that God bless INEC, and God bless the civil societies, and God bless Mr. President. God bless also the National Assembly for letting us know that the last day of submission of candidates gives you 180 days, 6 months. 6 months, not 6 weeks again. 6 months of you engaging the people and selling your candidate. And on the other hand, the second part, which is so important, is that your vote will be transmitted right from the polling unit. These two things put together gives Nigerians a completely different paradigm from what has been in the past. So we are going to have, let those people buying forms at, if they like, let it be 1 billion, get it. I want to tell you that you are going to meet a group of Nigerians from a third party, which is what we call the third force or the alternate. There's going to be somebody that will emerge. And we're going to have town hall meetings. We're going to have debates. We're going to have engagement. Nigerians are going to see for themselves. It's like in Akwa Ibom State, I'm contesting the governorship. And just 3 days back, we had a virtual debate. It was engaging. 3 hours, 8 of us. It was wonderful. It was amazing. Akwa Ibom people started to say, wow, this is something. And that was even before candidate. The next one is going to be with the candidate. And I'm happy to announce that I'm already trying to be a candidate because my party has, in the Congress we had, adopted me as the sole candidate for the party, understandably. And so I'm waiting for PDP.
All right, Ezekiel, here I took. Let's quickly share your thoughts on this one as we begin to round off on this one. It talks about World Bank and the consent for the subsidy. I mean, we're looking at 4 trillion naira. According to the World Bank, they say increasing fuel subsidy puts the Nigerian economy at high risk as subsidy payments may significantly impact on public finance as well as post-debt sustainability concern. Looking at the fact that 40 to 60% our oil earnings were very dependent on oil for our earnings, and of course 80 to 90% constitute our entire export. Oil is on top of that percentage and calculation. But what are your thoughts, really?
I agree completely with the World Bank, and I've maintained this period right from the time of President Jonathan. Subsidy is one fraud that I'm shocked that my president could not, even having been the Minister of Petroleum. A lot of times I really don't understand him. Subsidy is a mega fraud on the poor. It is a major ripoff on the nation as a whole. There are so many things you cannot explain about the petroleum subsector. You can't explain about the daily quotas of production that we have. You can't explain about the different seedings that have been done. You can't explain so many things. You can't explain why refinery cannot be built in 7 years. There are so many things you can't explain. You can't explain the volume of the so-called buyback that we have. You can't explain the subsidies. There is a lady, lady Mrs. Esther Ogwe or something like that, that was the head of PPMC, that was relieved of her duty. Let Nigerians go back to her and find out why she was relieved, because she actually went on the floor of the Senate to testify about certain things. But that matter has been swept under the carpet. But one day it will come up. The whole concept of subsidy is a few handful of people feeding fat to the detriment of the generality of Nigerians. I say it and I say it again. I, as an individual, I consume more fuel on a daily basis than my whole village put together. By the time you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SUVs, the amount of fuel you get, and I'm subsidized for every liter of fuel that I buy. I'm subsidized for it. But you are now equating me with that guy on the street that is trying to buy a little fuel for his generator or for his, pumping, whatever he's using it, maybe the guy who does a vulcanizer or the hairdresser who uses just about 10 liters for God's soul. Meanwhile, I take about 10 to 15, 20 times that on a daily basis. You are subsidizing me. You're not subsidizing that little person. Can we just move around and come at an honest economic, factor that will target those people and then give them that leverage to even buy those things free of charge on a daily basis? Meanwhile, use that money in a way that benefits the poor. Subsidy is a fraud. Subsidy has to be looked into very, very well.
All right, we must say a very big thank you to you, Mr. Ezekiel Etok, for all the thoughts that you have shared on the Off the Press segment this morning. We do appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, and God bless you both.
Yeah, God bless you too. It is still The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We'll go back this day in history and see what happened, and when we come back, we'll be going straight to our first discussion for the day. Do join us again. For time.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you don't talk, they will beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
in raising our kids, parents should stop playing God.
The internet is actually using the people.
But when you're looking for money to help other people, then it becomes easy.
Don't rush into marriage. I always say this. You rush in, you rush out.
Family is the bedrock of every society and the essence of life.
On Today with John and Helen, we dig deep into family values in every sense of the word.
Join us every Saturday at 9:15 a.m. on PlusTvAfrica, DSTV channel 408.
With you, we play a part in strengthening the values passed from generation to generation.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
This medal has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
When I start hearing the shoot of gun,
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
Welcome back. It's still the breakfast on Plus TV Africa to the first conversation for today. Creative problem solving is a way of solving problems or identified opportunities when conventional thinking has failed. It encourages you to find fresh perspectives and come up with innovative solutions so that you can formulate a plan to overcome obstacles and reach your goals. As we explore what it is, the CEO of HelpMom, a youth advisor for World Bank on Solution for Youth Employment, Dr. Abiodun Adereni, joins us now to look at its key principles and provide a model that can be used to generate creative solutions vis-a-vis SDGs and other developmental issues. Many thanks for joining us, Dr. Adereni.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much for having me.
It is indeed our pleasure. But let's get straight into it. Creativity and innovation in problem solving. It just sounds like some concept that is being studied in school. Can you break it down for us?
Yeah, so we are celebrating the Creativity and Innovation Day today, which actually is meant to show how creativity and innovation can help achieve the Sustainable Developmental Goal towards 2030. And the importance of that is that the UN has seen that when they set the goal, the Millennium Developmental Goal between 1990 and 2015, and it wasn't achieved, they've seen the reason why innovation and creativity can help speed up the achievement of the Sustainable Developmental Goal towards 2030. So if we look at education, if we look at healthcare sector, the bedrock, innovation is the bedrock for continuity in any business. And for us to achieve that, we must be able to keep innovating. We must be able to solve problems in new creative ways to be able to achieve the Sustainable Developmental Goals.
So let's even, delve to this sort of part, which I think that you probably might be an authority or have some sort of experience, the health sector for us in Nigeria. You see how the health sector is, and a lot of people have argued that if you look at our budgetary allocation over time, it hasn't even met, the required standard. So we constantly struggling and grappling between 7% compared to the Abuja Declaration when we talked about, 15% and what have you. So how do we now manage this? Now we're talking about meeting developmental goals. How do we now get innovative when we have less allocated, to the budget sector?
Yeah, if you look at
the health sector, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, if you look at in 2001, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, the former president of Nigeria, at an event with the WHO, declared that before 2007, 21% will be allocated to health. And at the moment, we still have 7% allocated to health. And we cannot say we want to keep waiting for the government to solve the problem we have in Nigeria. The private sector leaders and local leaders need to partner together to facilitate good healthcare solutions and good health problems. One of the things I've come to realize is that in countries that have made progress in terms of improving their healthcare sector, there has been a form of partnership between the private leaders and the grassroots leaders. So when I mean grassroots leaders, people that are solving local solution, using local innovation to solve local healthcare challenges in communities. When we have private leaders, when I mean by private leaders, I mean the banks, the corporations coming together, putting their CSRs to support these people. Because if we have to wait for the government is not ready to do anything, and that's the truth. I mean, we don't see anything changing between now and 2024. We don't see anything changing between now and 2029. If we say we want to keep waiting, our budget is still going to be at 7% for healthcare. So the best way we can speed up innovation, the best way we can solve the healthcare challenges we have currently in Africa and in Nigeria is to see more local leaders, more private leaders working together to solve problems and to solve.
Just before, I mean, Justin, comes in. Now, if you talk about that, which is very brilliant, I mean, it's very correct that you have, if you look at developed climes, you have that the private sector has always driven these climes. But we're still grappling with fundamental issues. We're talking about the issue of power. We're still talking about the issue of security. I mean, there are hospitals, I would take for instance, the University of Calabar Teaching Hospital, where you constantly have, I'm speaking because for first-hand information and, being around that vicinity for a while. And so you have people constantly, issue of security where doctors are being kidnapped and people are kidnapped from the hospital. So we're still struggling with basic things. Access to good roads. I mean, when you want to even talk about the tiers of government, you look at the primary health care, sector. There's really almost nothing to write home about. So how do we even really achieve this in the midst of the fact that we're not even being able to meet with the basic things, fundamental issues? So how can the private sector thrive in a system where there's no security and you want to talk about taxation and other issues? How?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, the government itself needs to make Nigeria business friendly for innovators. That's the first problem that needs to be solved, first of all. And when you talk about taxation, when I mean business friendly, I mean in issue of tax, right? You don't expect the government charging a young innovator the same kind of tax they'll be charging banks, right? I mean, that will help us thrive. The second thing you talked about in terms of security, if we say because security is bad, things are bad, we don't want to do anything, we'll get stopped. And that's where
It's not because we say that security is bad. It is just logical that if you don't have a safe environment, investors will pull out. We know how many foreign investors that have pulled out of the country following all of the security concern, and also local investors businesses have collapsed. And so the question is, how do we now even get into this point and become creative in the midst of not being able to meet with basic issues, including, the power issue, which is very critical to the health sector?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that these problems are fundamental, systemic, right? These are things that I don't have control over. These are things that innovators don't have control over. These are things within the government parastatal. These are things that can be solved by them. So what I'm trying to say is that we can't wait for them to solve this problem before we start working. And what I mean where innovators can work with private leaders is that in communities where private leaders are working, like me now, I'm working in Ibadan, I'm working within the Southwestern community. We can have private leaders supporting us. There are a lot of innovators working in the grassroots community in Sokoto. They can have private leaders support them. There are a lot of grassroots leaders working in Kaduna, Kano, all these places that even have cases of Boko Haram. We can have local private sector support them in the best possible way until we have our security issues resolved, right? So the best way to go around this, so you talked about some places where doctors are kidnapped. We've seen in the US where telemedicine is a big thing, right? And where trust is actually something that is being inbuilt in the system. One of the reasons why people don't trust some online consultation, some telemedicine consultation is that they believe that I can decide to stay beside the system and I can say I'm a doctor, because there's no central data that can verify whether I'm a doctor. These are the things that civilized communities, these are the things that the US have in place. So I think if the healthcare system can put some of these things in place where there can be good data and verification, things like telemedicine will strive, things like that. So you don't really need to go meet a doctor unless it's the case of surgery, which you need and the likes to actually, yes. And doctors can feel more safe with their lives because they can attend to patients remotely.
Okay, so we don't lose the essence of this particular day, which actually talks about using innovation and creativity to solve most important problems. You know, when you said in your opening salvo how the nations of the world have moved from the MDGs, and that's the Millennium Development Goals, to the Sustainable Development Goals. You talked about maternal mortality, and which one of the goals there is to ensure it is reduced to 7 deaths to 10,000 deaths. You know, so let's talk about the creativity and innovation specifically in that particular goal. What has been done in recent times that creatively or innovatively to ensure that this particular issue of maternal mortality is actually brought to the barest minimum?
Yes, so one of the things that can really reduce maternal mortality is access to healthcare financing, right? If you notice, Nigeria currently, we lose 145 pregnant women daily, and we have 814 deaths per 100,000 live birth, right? One of the issues that is facing us at the moment is because of the healthcare system we have, and there's no proper healthcare financing. And Nigeria has not been able to really do so much in this. One of the things I've come to realize is that the local innovators are really working hand to hand to make sure that we reduce maternal mortality to the barest minimum. One of the problems we have is we don't have good healthcare infrastructure. We don't have good places where people can have safe birth. Most of the deliveries still happen at home.
Because I was going to say that people still patronize TBAs and all of that. So how far have we gone in that regard?
In that regard, there's no provision the government is making. So let me talk about what we're doing at Help Mom. What we do at Help Mom is that because we know people go to TBAs, community health workers, we provide them with the tools they need to have safe birth. So you don't need to go to an hospital for you to have a safe birth. You can use our clean birth kits to have safe birth in your community. That's one of the things we do. And one of the things we're also doing now is that we are investing massively in research, because we've noticed that the best way to solve issues and solve systemic problems is to invest in research. So we are not trying to do things in the conventional way that has been done. We are trying to use data to now provide solutions that can help solve this problem permanently, not just temporary. So one of the things I will employ the government to do is the government needs to invest more in research, because when you invest more in research, there will be new innovations springing up that can help solve some of the systemic issues we have in terms of maternal mortality and infant mortality in Nigeria.
So, but let's talk about, poverty as also part of the Sustainable Development Goals. And if you look at it, in 2018, Nigeria had surpassed countries like India, topping the charts. And, currently we're looking at 70 million people. And with all of the data, those who are living at, $2, probably looking at 800 naira. I don't know if that's anything to go by with the current, exchange rate. But what innovation do we need to? We have seen politicians make very lofty and promising statement. 100 million Nigerians will be lifted out of poverty. 200 million. Nigeria would be a very prosperous nation. But in all of this, we constantly see the standard of the living of the people. And we see that including, in the standard of living, if you also look at the rate of resources being exchanged, you find out that there's no fairness. And so there's always equality. It feels like the system is created to make some group of persons stay constantly poor. What creativity, and do you think, first of all, do you think we have been creative enough? And secondly, what kind of innovation, how can we step in, at the government level as individuals to ensure that we get out of poverty?
I think for the issue of poverty, I don't think we need any creativity or innovation in that regard. We just need to solve the problem by investing in women and investing in people.
Say again, please.
Investing in women, right? And investing in small, medium businesses.
Women, you said?
Women businesses, and investing in small, medium businesses also.
Why specifically women in business?
Because it has been proven that women manage money than men. Women grow businesses more than men. So if you look at it, even globally, in terms of raising funds, women at the low bottom of the pyramid. I mean, you have less than 1% of women who have raised over $1 million, while we have several men-owned businesses that have raised a lot. So I think we need to, the government itself need to start investing in small, medium businesses. You know, when you invest in small, medium businesses, you create more employment for people. When you invest in women businesses, and when I mean women business, I'm not talking about even, that's why I'm saying that creativity and innovation is not needed. When I'm talking about women business in terms of farming, right? Women businesses in terms of trading, women businesses in terms of fashion, right? These are things that has been neglected by the government. And when there are more investment going into these, they can employ more people. And when they employ more people, they will be able to create more job opportunities, and they will be able to start lifting people out of poverty. And one other thing I think I need to mention also is that the government itself needs to create good way in which people can export their product out of the country. You know, we are talking about the exchange rate now. You say $2. $2 is...
That's basically,
$2 is 570 naira now, right? And it's because of the fact that we don't have good exchange rate system. If we have good export system in which people can start making locally made product and they can export it outside, it's going to even help Nigeria in terms of its own dollar to naira exchange rate, because we have more inflow of foreign currency coming into the country because of the export that we are providing. So I think, number one, the government needs to invest in small, medium businesses. Number two, the loan. One other thing I forgot is that there must be low interest loan provided also for businesses. And because one of the things you come to realize is that you want to get loan from the bank, they're telling you to pay 18%. I mean, and it's not even flexible. So loans that are really flexible and have low interest rate, and also investing in women-owned businesses, and also investing in small, medium businesses.
Let's take it one step further. You've talked about the roles, SME, small and medium scale enterprises, play in driving the nation's economy. And you have also talked about the need for a low interest rate to sustain that economy. But let's really talk about creativity and innovation now at the entrepreneurship level. I'm a small business owner. I have a business and I manage less than 20 people. What kind of innovation or what kind of creativity do I need to bring on to my business on a daily basis so I can actually do things differently and actually get better returns?
Yeah, so the best way you can be creative about your business is using technology, right? Technology is one of the things that can help you scale fast. Technology is one of the things that can help you grow fast, right? And technology is one of the things that can be appealing also to investors to invest in your business. I'll give you an example today. So, delivery, we have something, the delivery company. You see a lot of people having delivery companies in Nigeria, logistics and the like. It's the same logistic company that people like OPay was doing. It's the same logistic company that people like Bolt is doing.
Let's not be mentioning brand.
Brand, right? It's the same logistic company they are doing. Why is it that theirs is more fascinating to investors? Because they've been able to master how to incorporate technology into what they do. So as a small business owner, you must also find a way to be creative to put technology at the core center of what you do, so that you can be able, because with technology you are innovating, and when you are innovating with technology, you can scale fast, number one, and also you can be able to grow faster also with technology. So
if you look at the sustainable goals, I mean, it's quite encompassing. It talks about, quality education, gender equality, zero hunger, affordable clean water. I mean, the list is almost endless with all of this, but you want to begin to ask yourself, some of these things cannot happen they just can't happen in space without a safe environment, and security is top on that particular list. And so you want to begin to ask yourself, what's the creativity and innovation that's needed to solve the security problem? These are issues because at the end of the day, the Sustainable Development Goals is looking at the standard of living of the people. And these are some of the, landmarks that have been put out to measure. So you look at the quality of education and what have you. So the question for us right here is, what's the creativity that's required and innovation to solve security concerns? That's on the one hand. And as much as we know that security, it's almost the responsibility of government. That's on one side of it. So how do we even solve this? Because it feels like this, will just go a long way in sorting other issues. Then I'll bring this quickly because we might just, have to call it off. Now, if you look at the banking sector, you've talked about innovation. Over time, there's been several innovations and technology that's been introduced. But recently, there's a lot of outbursts. And you see that, being promoted by social media where people acting, you find people conducting praise and worship sessions outside the bank because of the fact that problems are not being solved. You also have people jumping counters and acting, very rational. So but how do we manage all of this? I mean, it's a two-in-one question now.
Yeah, so I think I'll take from the last question to the end. If you look at one of the reasons why we have, like you said, I'll use these two scenarios that you said, people bringing doing praise and worship outside the banks, and also people jumping counter, which I saw yesterday. The reason why we have this is that the banks are not accountable anymore. Like, people are getting their money deducted for something they don't understand. And one of the things I've really found here so well is that the banks are not also communicating. So you charge me now. For yesterday, the woman was like, they charge her 750,000 naira from her account. For what, right? So I think this is not even a problem of creativity and innovation. This is a problem of accountability, right? They must be accountable to their customers. What if you are charging me 15 naira? Why are you charging me 15 naira? And I noticed one thing that the bank does is that they do these charges overnight when you are sleeping, so that you don't suspect. I mean, so that you just wake up and you just.
It's like a thief in the night.
Yes, overnight when you're sleeping. I think accountability is what the bank must incorporate in what they're doing, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are using fintech solutions, because it's easy for you to hold them accountable if they remove any money from you. Like any.
I know what
fintech,
you're
right?
But that particular brand you're mentioning has also not been out, of some of the issues. I mean, it was also being reported. It was seen where a customer was being beaten blue black. Of course, this certain brand. So I totally understand that companies, the bank need to be very accountable. But we also talk about some of these issues that should be solved with technology. They have some of this technology that's been introduced. You mentioned that sometimes you don't even need to walk to these places to solve the problem. You can just sit back, at your comfort zone, and at the click of a button, it's been solved. So I really don't know how efficient technology has been, that creativity and innovation has been in the banking sector, especially in Nigeria.
I also don't think they've been creative enough, and if they are not careful, they'll be out of business soon because of a lot of fintech and a lot of innovations coming up. Like I said, accountability is key. So I think one of the ways that this can be resolved is that if I'm opening a bank account with you, let me know all the charges I have to pay. Be straight up with me, communicate with me, send them as text messages to me. Let me see them on my bank apps that these are the things I'm due for at this particular time of the month. I won't have these kind of problems again. And you mentioned the issues of security, really. See, when I think about security, will I use technology to, I mean...
No. So it's creativity and it's innovation.
But let's look at the railway sector now. I mean, when I saw it somewhere where that a rail was moving and a helicopter was actually escorting it. I think that's innovation, right? I mean, but that's a lot of money being spent, and that's been wasteful.
But it can be taken down.
It can be taken down. That's a lot of money being spent. So I think I support what someone said. A governor said we need to bring in machineries to fight the insecurity we have in Nigeria, and I think at this stage that's what we need.
But where does, before we let you go, just very quickly in 30 seconds, so where does all of this lie in the new media and all of that?
I think for new media, I think one of the things I've come to realize is that for the space of the new media, people are still a bit backward in some regards. So if you look at, I see a lot of things happening in the new media outside the country where every content is being monetized. So if I go on Washington Post now, on New York Times now, before I read any content, I must pay for a month. And I still see a lot of Nigerian companies, a lot of Nigerian media companies not monetizing their content properly, right? So I think for the new media, if more monetization can come for, because now it has been shown and proven that content is king. is king and is going to be the next big thing. So I think
content creators should
focus on monetizing anything they want to do now.
Thank you so much. That's as much as we can take. So you better start monetizing.
No, you know, we're very used to being, having access to free things. For instance, yes, I think that Nigerians are not used to paying for anything, and so that's why it's difficult for you to get a phone. You know, there's a certain phone you get that you can't even get apps very free. You have to pay for almost everything, and it's not our style. So it has to take a lot for us to get to that point.
But also monetizing content as low as $1 per month is a starting point also, right? You see some of these New York, so there are some companies, some magazines I read online from the Western world that I pay as high as $20 per month.
All right, we've been speaking with Dr. Abiodun Nureni. He is the CEO, co-founder, Health Mom and Health, and he has been talking to us about creativity and innovation vis-a-vis the sustainable development goals and how you can actually add it to your daily life, to your businesses, and of course impact on yourself, scale your business, and of course, again, grow the economy of the nation. It's the breakfast that will take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll move away from this. We'll be talking politics in a moment. To join us again.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely, by no question. He's a living legend. Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event
on Plus TV. Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plusttvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
How can we have peace without justice?
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Welcome back. It's still the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We'll be looking at the presidential pardon that was granted to two former state governors, which have actually generated a whole lot of reactions and counter reactions. And some people are saying that it is undermining the nation's fight against corruption. Mercy, you have the wheels. Take the drive.
Well, the power of the president to grant pardon is guaranteed in Section 175, 126 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. The federal government, as it last week, granted state pardon to two former state governors, Reverend Jolin Yama of Taraba State and Senator Joshua Dari of Plateau State, along with 157 others. The effect of the pardon, this really means that the nullification of punishment or consequence of a crime and conviction is that the governor and the governors and the 157 inmates are fully restored as if they have never committed the offense in the first place. Now, this is the implication of that action by the president. Nigeria has a long history of state pardons. Now, in 1966, before the Civil War, Yakubu Gowon regime pardoned Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the leader of the Action Group and the former premier of the defunct Western region, and Chief Anthony Enahore, journalist and politician at the time, both of whom had been convicted of treasonable felony in 1963. Now, the list is almost endless, but let's just see what we can do. President Shehu Shagari pardoned General Yakubu Gowon to nullify the accusation that he was involved in the 1975 Bukar Dimka coup that led to the assassination of General Murtala Mohammed. Now, the same Shagari administration pardoned the Biafran leader Udumegu Ojukwu for leading the Biafra secession between 1967 and 1971. General Babangida granted the pardon to Nduka Irabor and Tunde Thompson, journalists with the Nigerian Guardian newspaper at the time, who were jailed under the draconian Decree 4 imposed by President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, General Abdusalami Abubakar pardoned General Olusegun Obasanjo, who was convicted for involvement in a coup plot by Abacha's regime. President Obasanjo pardoned former Speaker of the House of Representatives. Now, in 1999, Saliu Buhari was convicted for forging his certificate, the famous Toronto scandal. His sins were later officially forgiven. In March 2013, President Goodluck granted pardon to the governor of Bayelsa State, Chief Alemisia, okay, and also with General Ladipo Daye and Major General Abdul Karim Adisa and former Managing Director of the Bank of the North, Shatima Bulemai. Now, in April 2020, Buhari administration granted pardon to the former governor of Old Bendel State, Professor Ambrose Ali, and Chief Anthony Nahiro. You also have Moses Effiong, Major General, as well. So we'll just leave it at here. The truth is, this list that's going on, and the one that's most controversial is that of Alamesia, who escaped the arms of the law in the United Kingdom. Of course, the process was initiated by the then president, late president to say Musa Yar'Adua, which was now implemented by Goodluck Jonathan at the time. I would like to have Nika Gule at this point. Nika Gule, it's good to have you join us this morning on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
So let's get to it. There's been a lot of reactions and conversations surrounding the pardon that the president has granted. And going through this list of pardon that's been granted, why are we surprised by this pardon to these governors? Because it feels like we're more concerned about the governors that have been mentioned rather than the 157 inmates also. So what's the surprise? It's just the practice that's been ongoing for a long time.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I think you have given a very good intro to the subject, and that is that what the president did in terms of pardoning these people is legal, is provided by our Constitution. So as you rightly stated, Section 175 grants the President of Nigeria that prerogative to pardon. And Section 212 grants the same powers to a state governor for laws that have been made by the state. So it is nothing unconstitutional, it's nothing illegal that the president has done. But the reason why there is an uproar about this pardon, especially at this time, is that, first of all, we have a government that campaigned on the basis of fighting corruption. So this government campaigned on three basic things: fight against corruption, fight against insecurity, and then fight against economic downturn. And you can see when it comes to the economy, I will rate them F9 if I'm a teacher. If we come to insecurity, it's also F9. And so one would have expected that corruption, which is the remaining bit of the tripod of promises that this government made when they were campaigning for our votes, should be fought with everything that is left in this government. And so when this same government then goes and grants pardon to people who have been convicted, not just convicted by the court of primary instance, but convicted all the way to the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, that indeed they were corrupt, they took monies from the states that they were chief executives, and this government then gives them a clean bill of health and says, go free, your sins are forgiven. It passes a wrong message. It gives the indication that this government is not serious about the war against corruption. And so this is exactly the reason why this issue is happening. And also, if these figures were not political figures, if they were not members of the political class, and especially members of the ruling party, again, it will be understandable that probably the government has gone to the prisons and has looked at people who have served a substantial part of their convictions, and there is no need allowing them to remain in prison for the rest of the time. Therefore, you grant them pardon so that they can regain their freedoms. It will be understandable, but not for these political figures. And in fact, these people have not even served their jail sentences halfway. We have on record that one of the cases that was rejected is a former bank MD who was convicted for more than 10 years in jail and hasn't even served 2 years yet. His name made it to the list. It is to tell you that all these happenings are sending the wrong messages to people that you can go ahead and be corrupt, but so long as you belong to the ruling party, even if the highest court in the land convicts you, you are going to be set free. So legally, the government is right, but morally, the government is not right. These are the issues that are on the table.
All right, Mr. Agule, let's look at all that played out concerning these two main actors. That's Daria and, of course, Nyame. You know, it took the prosecution about 11 years. You know, there was a whole lot of hullabaloo when all of that happened. Eventually, they were sentenced to 14 and 12 years. The Supreme Court later reduced the sentences, you know, to 12 and 10 years, respectively. But over time, if you look at all of this, it's as though the rich, like you have said, and those who are very influential, who have some ties with the ruling party are the ones who were set free, while others who might have not committed a crime is a crime, maybe smaller crimes per se, you know, they still spend the whole life or spend the length of their jail term. They carry it to the end of it. But let's talk about reactions that have through this development. Now, the governor of Rivers State was in the news some days ago, and he has said all of this has caused some sort of embarrassment for the anti-graft agencies, that's the EFCC and the ICPC. At the end of the day, he was calling for, for them to be scrapped because there was no essence of having an EFCC or an ICPC when they would have gone all out 11 years to try to prosecute these people who have committed these crimes. And yet, after all their efforts, they are set free, go home and say no more.
Yes, so I can understand from where the governor of Rivers State is coming from. There is a sense of anger in the land on these pardons, especially for these political figures that have been convicted to the highest levels in our judicial process. But to say that the EFCC and ICPC and other anti-corruption agencies should be scrapped, we amount to throwing away the baby with the bathwater. Granted that the officers in these agencies will feel discouraged, and rightly so, because you cannot spend so much energy, money, and your time to bring some criminals to the law and indeed get them jailed, only for you to watch them set free and walk away. Because these officers that are working in these anti-corruption agencies, they face a lot of hazards. Their lives are at stake because when you are fighting corruption, corruption fights you back. And imagine that they go through all those hazards, even at the risk of their lives, and they successfully prosecute and bring criminals to justice and get them jailed only for a wave of hand, and they have a presidential pardon. That is going to be very demotivating. But that is not to say that the work of these agencies should be thrown away and they be scrapped. No, they shouldn't be scrapped. The agencies are there, they are serving us, and they are serving Nigeria, and they are acting as a deterrent to people who would ordinarily be corrupt, because they know that the EFCC and ICPC will come after them, they are not corrupt. And the agencies are also showing evidence of successful prosecution of criminals and corrupt people. Therefore, they should be allowed to do their work. The only thing we need for them is we need to empower them, give them independence. Look, see what is happening in the UK, where I'm speaking to you from. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was issued a fixed notice penalty, that is convicted of a crime, that is what it means in a layman's language, for holding a party in Downing Street, which is the equivalent of our Aso Villa, during the COVID lockdown. So imagine EFCC approaching the presidential villa to question President Buhari, or question the chief of staff, or question anybody in government. So you can imagine the powers that security agencies are being given elsewhere. This is what we need for our security agencies. We need to empower them. We need to give them independence. The EFCC, for instance, shouldn't be an appendage of the Aso Villa. It shouldn't be an appendage of the presidency. The head of the EFCC shouldn't be an errand boy of the president. Because very often you hear in Nigeria where he says the president has ordered the Inspector General of Police to investigate this. The president has ordered this. The president shouldn't be ordering these people. These people should have independence as law enforcement agents to go and do their work, even if it means doing that work in the presidential villa. The same way the Metropolitan Police have done their work in Downing Street. So
okay,
until we empower them like this,
Nika Gule, so we have just 1 minute, and in 1 minute, should we be blaming the president? Because from the antecedent, we have seen several presidents taking this decision, and some people would say corrupt, but it's been going on. Or should we look at the Constitution that gives so much powers to the president to take such decisions? We're talking about discretion, but what defines discretion at the end of the day?
Yes, we have to blame the president because he didn't act with discretion. He insulted.
But discretion is not defined in the Constitution.
Yes, it is not defined, but the president, by his action, has insulted the sensibilities of Nigerians because he campaigned and obtained our votes on the premise that he was going to fight corruption. And you cannot be fighting corruption when you are setting corrupt people free. If the president, for instance, had set free people who committed some other offense, or they have served in office for so long, or like in the case of Obasanjo that you mentioned, he was convicted of a coup, and then you set him free and all of that. That is different.
Alamesia is a key issue of corruption. Typical.
Yes, the president shouldn't be releasing people who have been convicted of corruption. Because if he does that, then his pledge to Nigeria...
We have to let you go now, Nick Agule. Thank you so much for being part of the show. We wish we can continue this conversation, but we are out of time. We look forward to having more of you sharing your thoughts on The Breakfast.
Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
Indeed, that's the size of the show for today. We must say thank you to all of our guests who joined us today to look at creativity and innovation, and of course the essence of the fight against corruption and the presidential pardon that has generated controversies and reactions from various spheres in Nigeria. My name is Justin Kadonye. The Breakfast returns again tomorrow.
And if you missed out on any part of the conversation on The Breakfast, it's all right to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. Many thanks for watching. I am Messi Boko. Have a great day.
This medal has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
We now start hearing the shoot of guns.
Whatever I have done.
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Tsadar rayuwa ta fara ƙure haƙurin wasu 'yan Najeriya, musamman ma yadda farashin kayan masarufi ke hauhawa, kasancewar
Heartache on the track.
Young MD, I never kept it by my side. Nigeria. A Najeriya ƙasa muna da arziki mu da zamu ji daɗi amma mu ne muke jinjiri mu ne muke jinjiri ba ƙaramin yaro babba har ma ɗan jinjiri ya kamata ku duba babatin abuba mutane da yawa mun yi lafi sai mun tuba babatin addini ko ya shiri ya kini in gaskiya ta zo a faɗa ko da za a kini Nigeria we supposed to be a first na us the last ba a batin relax ya kamata fa mu canza babatin mu gazza kar wani ya zo yana mana fama kallon banza kidnappers sun bi sun dame mu ba mu kananan yara ba ma har da iyayenmu yunwa ya zami da kanmu gwamnati ya kamata fa ku duba lamarinmu la text message young MD I'm said daga nan jani ga kasan mafara akaidi all my people I want you to read in this special message I send him sai mu haɗa kanmu Yoruba Igbo har da ma Hausawanmu sai mu kauda cin hanci ba ma gabanmu Najeriya uwa kusan ita ce ƙasanmu fyaɗe babatun kuɗaɗe muna gudu mu kwana daji babakin gidaje fyaɗe babatun kuɗaɗe muna gudu mu kwana daji babakin gidaje Najeriya shaye-shaye bai da kyau shike damun mu a ƙasanmu ma dai ma fa a yau we need good community we need good education we need good purity we need good security we need good sociality we need good leaders Nigeria gwamnati ya kamata mafa ku duba Young MD aga Nigeria
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from PlusTvAfrica.
Good morning. I am Khadijat Balogu, and this is the news brief. President Buhari has warned leaders of the All Progressives Congress at both national and state levels against factions and imposing unpopular candidates as the 2023 general election approaches. This is as the party reached agreement on the form it would use to select a presidential candidate and other matters relating to the 2023 general election.
Came in at a critical time, and the entire party has high expectations from you. The critical task ahead of you remains to continue to forge the unity of purpose among party members and to seek and to keep securing needful compromises in the interest of our great party. I enjoin you all to follow the due process in all the party processes, and more importantly, to develop more mechanisms against corruption. I call on all party members to abide by all extant laws, rules, and regulations, and to leaders of our party to avoid imposition of candidates that cannot win popular elections.
Half-truths, outright lies, and deliberate misinformation are the well-known weapons to attack against the incumbent government. You do not need to hear from me that the Buhari administration is the sole subject of vilification in and outside the media. Some of the criticisms and lies are so unkind as to create the impression that this administration has done nothing positive for the country. It is even years in office.
Sir, Senator Abdullahi Adamu has just taken over. I can see he is going to lead us in the fight against protecting our party and our administration. I would appeal to all of us to continue to project and protect the image of our administration and our president. Some people, recently, of course, someone was even contemplating or suggesting an interim administration in this country. We will see and hear a lot of this kind of distractions. I think it becomes all of us, especially those of us in leadership, to continue to promote what we have been able to achieve in this administration and in our states, and also protect our party. The onslaughts will be very high and very tough as we move towards 2023. But I think with what we have been able to achieve, we have everything, every possible ammunition to project the image of our president, this administration, and our party.
There are indications, and we're trying to stem that tide, of many members trying to drift, go to one party or the other. The reason is very simple. They're very happy in APC. They love the party. They love the principles of the party. But like I've always said, survival and self-preservation is the first instinct of any human being. In terms of primaries, please let our members, I'm not asking for favors for our members, but let our members have a fair shake in the primaries.
And also, the National Executive Committee of the APC has approved a 50% reduction in the nomination forms. The national youth leader of the party, Dayo Israel, who disclosed this on his official Twitter page, described the move as a golden opportunity, but pleaded to the youth not to abuse it. Israel also described it as the first time in the history of the party. The rights group, the Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria, has urged the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, to probe the source of wealth of any presidential aspirant of the All Progressives Congress who picks the party's 100 million naira presidential nomination and expression of interest forms. In a statement signed by its national coordinator, Emmanuel Owubiko, the association says it is a shame that those who seek to govern Nigeria are made to cough out so much money to purchase forms just to signpost their original intention as persons whose only objective would be to first recoup their huge investment and to further impoverish the citizenry. The All Progressives Congress in Adamawa State has convened a town hall meeting of the all parties chairmen in the 21 council areas, secretaries, and party delegates to enlighten them on the imperative of the electing the best candidates during the forthcoming party primaries. From Riola, Plus TV correspondent Ibrahim Abubakar has the report presented from our studio.
The town hall meeting was initiated by an APC chieftain, Jamili Yusuf, in collaboration with the state working committee of the party to generate meaningful discussions and arguments over who is a better candidate for the state. The meeting also included all the women leaders of the 21 council areas of the party, youth leaders, party stakeholders, and opinion leaders. Yusuf, who was the initiator of the engagement with the APC stakeholders, said that the idea was born out of the current leadership deficit and to reconcile and propose solutions to some challenges bedeviling the party in the state.
We have to create synergy so that every time we need to come and sit down, discuss party problem, so that we can have solution. As the president always said, politics is politics is local, and always it is from the bottom to top. We should stop taking politics to be something as that we are going to be doing it as from top to bottom. It should always be from bottom to top.
In his welcome address, the Algon chairman Abubakar Audu said apart from the engagement with the APC stakeholders at the grassroots, the party has also inaugurated an awareness team to enlighten their supporters on the need to have a voter's card.
Out of time notice, almost all of us are here. That is to show our concern to this, our dear party, APC. You are most welcome.
In his welcome address, the Algon chairman, Abubakar Audu, said that apart from the engagement with the APC stakeholders at the grassroots, the party has also inaugurated an awareness team to enlighten their supporters on the need to have their voters' cards. He said that the voting systems gives credibility and a sense of pride, and that all forms of crisis will reduce if the election is transparent.
And as political appointees and others begin to resign from their current status to contest the 2023 general elections, all eyes are on how those offices would be run in a short term. A legal practitioner, Liberus Oshoma, and a political analyst, Olufemi Lawson, are advocating that those in charge of checks and balances adopt structures to ensure there are no gaps. Our political correspondent, Jacinta Obiku, takes a look at the issues.
There have been contentious positions as regards the constitutionality of Section 84(12) of the Electoral Act 2022. In fact, President Muhammadu Buhari protested the constitutionality of the controversial provision of the newly assented electoral law. Others have argued that the section of the Constitution is able to disenfranchise people from vying for electoral offices. A legal practitioner, Liberus Oshoma, countered this.
It does not disenfranchise anybody because the provision of the Constitution actually limits participation for civil servants. That if you are in the employment of the government of the federation or of the state, that you cannot contest for an election except you resign 1 month before the election. And the Court of Appeal had held that political appointees are not employed in the government of the federation or of the state for the purpose of that section. And so once that, what that means is that if you're a political appointee, you can remain in office till even contest for election, whilst in that other office.
A political analyst, Olufemi Lawson, shared the same view. He insisted that a section of the law would limit the excesses of the political class.
I would want to say that morally, I don't think we even need a law to this extent to tell you that, you have an ambition to pursue in Jigawa State, then why are you sitting in Abuja as a minister if truly you are a very serious candidate?
One of those vying for the highest seat in government is the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. There are questions about how his latest ambition could cause a divided attention in carrying out his current duties as the nation's second in command.
The VP's attention certainly would be divided, just the same way a sitting president who is vying for a re-election's attention will be divided. So, and the question is, what we should do is to ensure that there is proper monitoring, not just a divided attention, to ensure that the job and the functions of that office is properly carried out.
The truth is that pursuing a political ambition is a natural distraction. Politicians will continue to aspire for other higher positions. Politicians will continue to even demand for what they do not deserve. But it is the duty of you and I to say, no, you don't deserve it. So those who have had competent ministers as deputies, should hand over to them, brief them. Those who have not had should use the next few days to get them carried along so that the duties of state will not suffer.
INEC has given political parties between April 4 and June 3, 2022 to conduct primaries. This means that public office holders seeking to be elected must resign before June 3rd, when INEC expects that all issues on party primaries must have been resolved. Meanwhile, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, ought to have issued a circular stating a deadline on when they should resign, but he has not, as President Buhari has not given directives to do so. Nigerians are watching to see how this pans out. Jacinta Obiuku, PlusTV News.
Moving on, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has accused the federal government of failing to prioritize the development of university education in the country. ASU President, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, who made the assertion, decried the situation where the government is focusing its attention on fuel subsidy, which he believes does not exist, rather than showing interest in revamping the nation's universities. More than 2 months since lecturers down tools, the ASU president alleged that the government has been insensitive to the union's demands, as according to him, no concrete resolution was reached despite the series of meetings, with the government delegation led by the Minister of Labour and Employment. All parties involved in the alleged Chrisland School scandal are presently undergoing scrutiny at the Lagos State Ministry of Education Quality Assurance Conference Hall, Alausa in Ikeja. Those present at the meeting are police officers, officials of the Education Quality Assurance, and those of the Directorate of Public Prosecution, Chrisland School authorities, including the affected teachers, parents of the affected students. Their presence at the ministry nullified the earlier arrangements to be at the state CRID, Panti, where they were earlier scheduled for detailed investigations. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, says Nigeria needs to seek cooperation with the international community to stop the growing trend of drug abuse and dealings. The Assistant Commander in charge of drug demand reduction in Ogun State, Eko Icheria, said the country must cease from paying lip service to constitutional provisions to punishing drug dealers and handlers. Icheria said the Nigerian government must ensure strict compliance with money laundering laws to prevent drug dealers from using ill-gotten wealth to disrupt and distort socio-economic development and national security.
The issue of drug abuse is everybody's affair. Just like my chairman, chief executive last year launched WADA, War Against Drug Abuse. He said every meaningful Nigerian should join NDLEA, not only to carry out drug enlightenment campaign at your own level, at the family level, at the community level, at school level. What I'm saying is that everybody, we are all, we are civil rights. Don't wait for government. We know that there is insecurity. If you sense anything around you, you should, raise alarm and report to the appropriate authority.
That being part of human nature, if you now combine it with ignorance, that gives you the answer to why people go into it, despite the fact that we are preaching against it, because they are ignorant of the long-term effect of use of drugs. They are only aware of the experience of using it on short-term basis. And if these substances actually can be used in low doses, short-term basis, they may not have overall negative effect that they have. But the interesting nature of these drugs is that when you use them after a while, you want to increase the dose to achieve the same effect. The more you increase the dose, the more you increase the risk of experiencing toxic effect of these substances.
Because we have come to realize over time that when people know better, they will do better. So equipping young people with the right information and knowledge to make informed choices is one of the very good ways through which we can address drug abuse in Nigeria, and that is what. And also, orientation organizations should be conducted in different institutions, government-owned institutions, and partner also with private institutions to ensure that young people in their different institutions are given knowledge so that they can make the right choices.
Residents of Langbasa in Ibeju-Lekki area of Lagos State have appealed to the state government and President Muhammadu Buhari to come to their aid over alleged illegal dredging in their community. The residents who made this appeal during a peaceful protest claim they have been harassed and attacked by thugs working for one of the dredging companies. They claim the company, which has been operating illegally, is making their lives a living hell with purported support by government officials. The Odofin of Ibejuland, I beg your pardon, I Chief Shamsuddin and Musa Barua, who also claim that they have sent petitions to the Ministry of Mines and Steel, Abuja, and yet nothing has changed.
Minister for Mines has called us down to Abuja. We narrated everything to him, and even Minister himself knows what is going. What he just said is that Dili should allow people to dredge there. If you don't know about dredging, you should go back to the motor business. That is what we heard from the minister on that day. But since when we came back, he's still terrorizing us.
Our community is very, very cooperative with anybody doing business in this community. But in this case, about dredging or what the daily motors, there's complaint here and there. Our people, there's no rest of mind in Lagasa again. Today, gunmen are in the community. Tomorrow, policemen are in the community, which has not been happening before. This guy did not, comply with the people of the entire community. But if he has does, there will be no problem in the community. He's not the first person dredging in this community. We have a lot of people that have been coming before now. But in his own time, we have problem in the community here and there.
We have been called in Abuja. We attended. The Minister of Cadastral and Mining addressed us. And they asked him to show his cadastral consent, which he did. And the community leader and the chiefs find out the cadastral is fraud and it was not signed by the community. And there was nowhere a cadastral will be issued to a particular person without the consent of the community leader and the landowner.
Meanwhile, in a swift reaction, Chairman of Dili Motors Limited, Okudili Omeyore, refuted the claims, explaining that he has served the community a letter inviting them to a meeting with the mines office, which got them upset. Omeyore also claimed to have genuine consent from the Bale of the land and could not be operating without due process.
The Bale of the community is who signed my consent for me. Those other people, they are the illegal operators. And what happened is that the federal mines and steel, they put a stop work order and told them to evacuate my title because I'm the legal owner of the title in Lagasa. Are you understanding? What's going on now is we even went to Federal Ministry of Mines. The minister called for a meeting for everybody, April 14th. Everybody went to Abuja. Those leaders you saw, they never believed that the Bale was going to come. You understand? Because they would think, how would a 99-year-old man come all the way to Abuja? So they thought that they were going to have the upper hand and say whatever they want to say, and nobody will believe what I'm saying. But I had people carry the Bale into the plane, carry him all around on the wheelchair, carry him into the minister's meeting room. Nobody ever believed that Bale will come. And when Bale started talking, none of them could talk. Are you understand what I'm saying? My people have already started making placards. The Bale is going to be there. The other Bales, the other sides of the community will be there, because the problem with Lagasa is divided because they're in court. Are you understanding? The children are in court with the Bale, so they're fighting over land. You know, when a Bale is 99 years old now, it's not easy now.
Lagosians are unhappy that no work has commenced on the Eko Bridge weeks after a fire incident burnt goods worth several millions of naira and caused serious damage, forcing motorists to use the alternative routes. And that's on our street views. Take a listen.
have a government in this country. You have leaders. They don't care for us. They don't care for us. They're just doing anything. The bridge affects us so much. Let the government open the bridge.
They should fix it so that we won't have this stress when driving. We are praying that Sanwo-Olu should please do it for us.
As you can see, it's affecting everybody. So they should come visit everywhere in abroad now. 2 hours they've done it. So Nigeria government should move fast.
It's affecting us every day. Like what we are passing through here every day. Sometimes we spend more than 1 hour before we can go through the traffic. It's affecting us. We are begging government to just help us fix it.
Fix it quick now. Now the bridge all of us they use. If you know bridge, no us. Make it feed us, make all of us seafood to feed for our family.
We spend 2-3 hours. Like on Monday, we spend 5 hours. 5 hours on hold up. It is stopped every day. Not only one, it stops every day. It's very, very critical. It's stopping every day. Please let them know, let them help us know what they will do there. I beg. It's affecting us very well. In our buses, they keep complaining every day. You understand? One woman delivered a child last week inside the traffic last week.
Moving on to other parts of Africa, the African Union AU has donated $150,000 towards relief efforts following the devastating floods in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province. More than 440 people died in the floods which swept through the province last week. The floods also caused massive damage to infrastructure. Announcing the donation, AU Commission Chairman Mustafa Mahamat said he reaffirmed its support for both South Africa during this difficult time. And outside Africa, the United States President Joe Biden said Wednesday that he did not think Russian President Vladimir Putin expected to face a united NATO when Putin launched an invasion of Ukraine. I don't think Putin counted on us being able to hold this together, Biden said as he sat down with military leaders at the White House.
And I knew they were tough and proud, but I tell you what, they're tougher and more proud than I thought. I'm amazed what they're doing with your help in terms of providing advice and the weaponry we're providing, along with the rest of NATO. Weapons and ammunition are flowing in daily, and we're seeing just how vital our alliances and partnerships are around the world. Our allies are stepping up, amplifying the impact of our response, and NATO is united, focused, and energized as it's ever been.
And that's the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Khadijat Balogun. Many thanks for watching.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from PlusTvAfrica.
for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.